Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. And Shahid Buttar is with us. He's the executive director of the Bill of Rights Defense Committee and the People's Campaign for the Constitution, PCC. The website, BORDC, as in Bill of Rights Defense Committee, .org. BORDC.org. Shahid, welcome.
Thanks for having me on, Tom. It's always good to see you.
It's great to have you here on the radio show. Usually you're on our evening TV show. Say what? Oh, turn them down. There we go. Okay. All these magical things here. So we learned yesterday or the day before yesterday, I guess it was, from the latest publication of Glenn Greenwald from the stuff that Snowden gave him long ago and far away, that 5 upstanding Muslim men, including the executive director of CARE, the Council on American and Islamic Relations, the largest Islamic civil rights group in the country, that these 5 men, one who served in the Bush administration with his top security clearance and everything, that these guys are being spied on during the Bush administration.
A Republican candidate for the Virginia House of Delegates, even. Yeah.
So, what's going on here, and what's the state of things right now?
Yeah. At the very least, what we learned from the story is that the NSA is monitoring Muslim Americans. And I would just invite us to think about it in more expansive terms than that, because that is just the tip of the iceberg. These particular people are the ones that Greenwald and Snowden named specifically to give them a chance to challenge spying in court. They have thousands of other names that they've agreed not to release to the public, many of whom are not Muslims. And I've heard a lot of people suggest that, well, if it's just Muslims being spied on, well, we've already accepted that as a society. That's not so bad. The problem, of course, is that the targets of domestic surveillance extend widely beyond Muslims, for instance.
If you could pick a couple of Tea Partiers.
Yeah, they're out there too. Yeah, in fact, so remember in 2008, the Department of Homeland Security suggested that anyone with a Ron Paul bumper sticker was a potential domestic terrorist because they would be likely to be recruited by militia groups. They said the same thing about returning U.S. service members coming home from armed service in Afghanistan or Iraq, particularly those with explosives training, because they would be very attractive recruits, not only to violence extremists motivated by a religious ideology, but also by white supremacist militias in the Pacific Northwest or in the mountain states.
Right.
And so...
Well, not just there. I mean, I grew up in Michigan, and the Michigan militia is...
The UP.
Famous, yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. So, which is just to say, a lot of Americans have been tagged as threats, and there's no reason to presume that the NSA hasn't been following any of them simply because we don't have the smoking gun memo as we do for these 5 others. And so, and just to note, some of the other people who we do know affirmatively have been targeted by NSA surveillance include the ex-lovers of at least a dozen agents who confessed to using the government's powerful tools to spy on their ex-wives, basically to stalk women. So women in domestic violence situations, or at least in...
Wait a minute. By agents, you're talking about the people inside the NSA were spying on their girlfriends, basically, or spying on somebody that they want to be their girlfriend.
In a dozen cases where they admitted it.
Wow.
And so what else does that suggest if there are tens of thousands of people and nobody knows what's going on behind the curtain? It's all secret, and the only reason we have any even modicum of transparency is because whistleblowers have risked prosecution and jail time, or in Edward Snowden's case, exile.
Back in the late 60s, I was in SDS at Michigan State University, and we discovered in the early 70s that we'd all been spied on.
Indeed.
And we got the files released. The red files, the red squad.
Through FOIA?
Through Michigan, through FOIA.
Okay.
And through another lawsuit also. And largely that was possible because Frank Church convened this committee, and what came out of the Church Commission were these reforms in the early 70s that made it possible for us to go back and say, okay, let us see the files from 1968 or 69, and were the years that I was in the middle of all this stuff. And 67, in fact. And so we haven't yet had that, moment of confrontation, that moment of truth. We haven't seen anything legislative like this. Ron Wyden seems to talk about this kind of thing. Bernie Sanders is gung-ho for it. But
Rand Paul might present it next year. If
you
not,
think?
well, I mean, if he runs for the presidency, he's going to put this stuff right in the middle of his campaign, the same way that the present president did. Right? I mean, it was in the middle of the Obama campaign,
back in 2008.
Yeah, he promised in writing on the Huffington Post to rein these problems in as a candidate 6 years ago. And, of course, not, as far as we know, a lick of that has found its way into reality. You mentioned the Church Committee, which I think is fascinating to think about. for a couple of reasons. I mean, the legacy of the Church Committee has been so thoroughly eroded. It's kind of a travesty in open sight. You know, Dianne Feinstein, in her capacity as the chair of the contemporary Senate Intelligence Committee, which was founded to continue the work of the Church Committee, has been a shill for the intelligence agencies, with the conspicuous exception of her rant against the CIA recently for spying on her committee. You know, she is at least nominally independent vis-a-vis torture, though she's totally complicit.
Until she gets spied on.
Yeah, right.
And it's like, hey, wait a minute, I'm being spied on? What? We can't have that. Oh, man.
Indeed.
So...
and we need another Church Committee, is all I'd say. You know,
this is the thing that I'm calling for. And you know,
absolutely.
Whenever I talk to a member of Congress, it's like, you know, would you support another Church Committee? What are you know, your organization, the Bill of Rights Defense Committee, bordc.org, or Twitter @bordc. What are you all doing?
Couple different things. So one of them is trying to find a GOP co-sponsor for the Surveillance State Repeal Act. That's the bill that Rush Holt, progressive Democrat from New Jersey,
who is not running for re-election.
That's right. He's retiring, and so he's the principal sponsor of this bill. And so with him retiring, we need to find other people to keep it alive. This is the bill that was originally introduced as the Justice Act, cultivated and crafted over 2 years by the former Senator Russ Feingold, who was the lone dissenting vote against the Patriot Act when it was first proposed.
Right.
And so this is the Anti-Patriot Act. It would reverse the Patriot Act. It would reverse the 2008 FISA amendments. It was crafted very carefully by a member of Congress with a seat on both the Judiciary and the Intelligence Committees. This is Feingold, who sank a good deal of time and expertise into crafting it. It's been sitting around for the last 6 years for someone principled to introduce and pass, ever since Congress legalized what Edward Snowden has since revealed. And so for the members of Congress who are inclined to walk the talk about privacy, about checks and balances, and about
the legislation's already done.
It's waiting.
And
right
nobody has dropped this in either the House or Senate.
It has been dropped in the House. Rush Holt, again, is the co-sponsor, and there's about a dozen co-sponsors, all Democrats in the Progressive Caucus.
Got to wrap it. Thank you, Sean.